This comes from Christy, and she asks, in my current will, I leave money to my children, but they don't all get an equal share. Any advice on how I should handle this? So what would you say to Christy?
So that's a great question, I would say, and one that I've gotten before from clients. When you are not dividing up your estate equally, again, it comes back to communication.
Right.
And I'm a big believer in sitting down and sharing that information with the beneficiary who may not be getting the same share of the estate. Often it's a difficult conversation to have, but what it will do is provide an explanation, because maybe there's a very much a rational reason why that is the situation, and it will eliminate or reduce any signs of disappointment when you pass away.
Right.
But if a conversation isn't possible, then the next best solution is really to express in a letter to that child why they may not be getting the same amount as their siblings, and keep that letter with your will so that when your executor gets your will, they will see that letter and they can give it to your child.
Right.
And then it provides an explanation and some understanding as to why perhaps they weren't treated the same way.
And that's so key, because we have to remember, when we're gone, there's no ability to clear up misunderstanding. We can only do that while we're here, right? And I think it's easy to think, well, I'm not here, so it's not really my issue. Yet, in my experience in talking to people, I always say, we want to think about our legacy, what we're leaving behind, and not just the money, but really about leaving behind the essence of who we are, our memories, our stories, our values. And I like to think of it more than even just the generation that's next, but thinking down 2 or 3 generations and what's the impact on them. And when you start with that kind of thought, I think it really does lead us back to saying we need to talk about this. So what we leave behind, and you said this so well earlier, Chris, order, harmony, control, things that make people feel good, because something that's written in a document that seems so obvious may not be obvious to the people who are having to read that document after we're not here. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'd also like to add that in our research, we found that when we surveyed the different groups or various family structures, of course, it wasn't a huge surprise. Almost half were unhappy or felt that their parents' distribution of the estate was unfair. Right. But what I thought was most interesting, actually, was that among the different groups, the ones that felt perhaps the most likely about the unfairness of the distribution of the estate were those that were in a relationship other than a first marriage.
Oh, interesting.
So if they were either a divorced or a second marriage, and so of course the blended families or the remarriages are going to add complexity to these estate planning issues, right? And so again, it's so important to have these wills in place and have the conversations, especially when you have various family structures, various family dynamics within your family, so that you want to make sure that your estate is distributed as you wish, but also leaving, as we say, a great legacy, leaving your family in peace and order and of course in harmony.
Yeah. That's great. And I know, Lydia, you kind of talked about this, but the whole idea of fair is not always equal is an interesting concept, isn't it? Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yes, that usually applies in a situation where I've seen a family business, for example, and there are multiple children in the family, but only 1 or 2 work in the family business. And usually that's the greatest, most valuable asset that the parents want to pass on. So in some cases, they will leave it to the children who work in the family business to the exclusion of the other kids. And sometimes that creates hardship and unsettling feelings among individuals who are not getting the business.
Yes.
However, it's good, again, to have that conversation and explain why some kids will be benefiting a little bit more at the end of the day than the others.
Absolutely. Yep. So, Christy, I hope that was helpful.